It's huge. And of course, another little mess up. The combine piece of equipment hits the windshield, breaks the windshield, and as we continue beyond this, the windshield is no longer smashed. So in Twister, these truck windshields on the Dodge Ram can reconstitute itself after it's been smashed and become a solid windshield again. I want one of those.
I want that technology.
Yeah.
What's poppin', y'all? Welcome to Post Finale. I'm your host, Ankit Madhira. I'm an actor and a musician who hasn't seen a lot of films, so to make my friends happy and potentially provide a new perspective on some popular films, I am on a quest to change that. I'm not on this quest alone, however. This week, I am once again joined by a lovely actor named Paul Nieman. Paul, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing well. It's been a solid 5 minutes since we last spoke. A week for the listeners.
Yes,
But
very true.
yes. We're doing well. So before we jump in and talk about Twister, you kind of explained it in the last episode already. You just kind of dropped it in. So I know that you would love to play Dusty in this film. So
yes, I would.
I have to ask a follow-up question to that,
Okay.
though. If you could play any character who is not named Dusty, who would you want to play in this film?
Oh, wow. I didn't give that much thought. I think it would be the character of Jonas.
Okay.
I know Jonas had the original script had a lot more dialogue that wound up on the cutting room floor, but it's always fun to play the bad guy.
Oh yeah, I
If
love
you
playing the bad guy.
Can't play the fun crazy guy. You got to play the bad guy.
Yeah, those are pretty much the two options. I mean, look, your son literally called me the other day and was like, "You good with being the crazy sidekick in a project potentially?" And I was like, yeah. So it tracks.
They are
It's a
fun
good time.
characters to play. Yeah.
They are very fun characters to play. Wonderful. Well, we have a lot to chat about in terms of Twister. This is going to be our last episode of Twister. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about the original one because at this point, the sequel has come out. Came out probably 3 weeks ago to when you were listening to this, if you were listening to this on the day that it came out. So it is probably still in theaters. I have no idea if it's good or not. We are recording this before it's out. So
well, we're going to find out. I think we need to go.
I think I now need to go see this new film and just see what happens. I'm curious to know. I mean, obviously, Bill Paxton can't make a cameo in it, which is sad. But I am curious to see if Helen Hunt makes a cameo in the film. Because from what I have understood, it is not a direct sequel, but it is still set in the same universe. So I'm curious to see if she makes an appearance. Maybe as a different character altogether, right? Maybe she's not the same character, and maybe it's like, she's just a very minor side character, has one scene. I'd be curious to see if she makes an appearance.
Well, there's one way to find out.
There is one way to find out. By no means, ladies and gentlemen, is this podcast sponsored by the film. So if you don't want to spend the money and don't want to go to the theaters, we're not forcing you to. So wonderful. Where we left off, the tornado is heading to the small town of Wakita, which is important because that is where Aunt Meg lives. So we made it to Wakita, and the sign has been destroyed. Now, a fun fact about Wakita. Wakita was established in 1898, and the population is 585 people when this tornado hit. Don't know what the population is after that. Or at least the population was 585 when they updated the sign. So,
well, the producers wound up buying the downtown area. They spent between $7,000 to $10,000 per house that they bought. I think they built an additional 30 homes to build the town that they were going to destroy. And then they destroyed it. It has been completely rebuilt and revitalized. It was their downtown area, and so now I guess they said Oh, the fire truck that was used in the film was a brand new fire truck, and the town got to keep the brand new fire truck.
Nice. I
Yeah,
did just look it up because I did know that Wakita was an actual town. And, I do know that. But apparently its population, according to a 2020 census, was 311. So,
this is a small town.
yeah, it dropped. Um, but they apparently also have a lot of tourism because the town also is home to the Twister Museum. So they have like a
Yes.
lot of stuff from the films.
Yep.
So
So this film put that town on the map.
there we go. I mean, hey, if I am for whatever reason ever in Oklahoma and I'm able to make a trip that way, I shall. Now that I
Yeah.
have seen this. So there we go. I mean, hey, the film's doing something. They are increasing tourism. Let's go. So the sign and the town very damaged, and we learned that from Joe they didn't have any warning, and Joe sees a family with a young girl, and they get to Meg's house, which is torn up, and Joe runs to the house, starts calling out for Meg, and Joe climbs up into the house, and the whole place is about to fall apart. Bill climbs in after her, and they hear the dog barking. So I'm like, okay, that means that at least the dog is alive. So there's hope that Meg is alive. And she is. She's just trapped and hurt. And, good dog. Hearing the sound of people and being like, we're down here, come help us. Good dog. So Meg is just, classic Meg, just being like, I'm okay. I didn't even, nothing's going to happen to me. Like, I'm fine. Like, what are you talking about? And she was like, the house didn't fall apart. And it's like, Meg, the house fell apart.
That it did. It was in bad shape, but amazingly, no broken water pipes, no broken gas mains.
None.
There was just structure.
It was just structure.
Yeah,
The pipes made it.
they did. They survived. So,
Or
you
if
live
they
in a
didn't survive, they were conveniently left out of the shot.
yes, somehow, somewhere they turned the water off to the city so that it didn't go all over the place.
Right. Well, the fire trucks are coming in. Maybe they shut off water to the city, and maybe a town that big, it only has, a water tank, right?
It does, and they do show that water tank.
Yeah. And we see that water tank. So maybe the water tank got knocked over, and so whatever water that there should have been is no longer in the pipes. Yeah. So also a possibility. They do get Meg safely out of the house. The rest of the gang, pulls up and helps bring her down from, the top of the house. And Meg just looks at Bill and is like, Bill, can you grab Moose? He's a little shaken up. And so good guy Bill goes back in, gets the dog. Good. The dog is alive. I'm happy. Meg, I had faith that they weren't going to kill her because she needs to give the motivational speech to Joe. I was like, you're probably not killing Meg. It would be really weird if you do. Interesting choice, but I don't think this is going to happen. Moose, on the other hand, I'm glad that they also made it a point, hey, go get the dog. Go save the puppy.
Yeah, because they would have wondered what happened to the dog.
Yeah, they made a point of that.
They did.
And, Spielberg, credit to him. He understood. It was Spielberg? Or, yes?
He wasn't the director, but he was one of the producers.
Okay.
Because it was done under Amblin Entertainment.
Okay. Yeah, I saw his name roll up in the credits, but I didn't remember in what portion. But the director, whose name is... no, that's not the right film. That's the wrong film that I'm looking at. Whoops. I was like, I know that's not the director of this film.
Yeah, what is his name?
So the director, who is Jan de Bont, I believe I am pronouncing that correct.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
She was the director, and great job there. Understanding that the audience is going to be invested about the dog, and she better make it clear about what happens to this dog. So, good job. And credit to the writers as well. So the paramedics say that they're going to keep Meg overnight just to make sure that she's fine. And Meg's just like, I'll drive myself. And then I love that one of the gang members just is like, honey, your car is in the tree around the corner. Adam.
Yeah, it's like one of my favorite lines in the film.
It's such a good line. And like, it is said in such sincerity of just like, person who feeds us and takes care of us and like loves us all like her children. Your car isn't in a drivable position, love.
Yeah, it's lodged in the tree around the corner.
Yeah. And then, as soon as they start loading Meg into the truck, they get her out right in time because the rest of the house collapsed. So I am especially glad that you got Moose. Mose is the dog. Yes. They got Mose.
Yeah.
I don't
Let's
know.
see if the dog gets credit. Flipping through the cast here, the dog should get credit.
The dog should get credit. Does the dog get credit?
Yeah, I don't see.
The
paramedic got credit.
But the dog didn't?
I don't think the dog did.
The dog was vital. If the dog did not bark at the time the dog barked, they would not have saved Meg.
Exactly. How could they? Well, I guess the dog didn't.
Justice for the dog.
The dog did not have a good attorney. They didn't get credit.
Yeah.
But they got fed.
They probably got lots of pets.
Yes.
So they, get her out just in time. They get the dog out in time, and the whole house collapses on itself. So good job, them. Now, we learn that the F4 that hit Wakita is moving northeast, and an even stronger tornado has just formed 25 miles south of Wakita, where the two storms met and combined forces. And I was like, of course. We are now in the final stage of the film. We are reaching the climax. The F5 is forming. Lovely. Now, Jo is feeling bad. She's in the ambulance and she's just like, look, Meg, I feel so bad that you got so beaten up. And Meg's just like, well, the paramedics have told me that I have a bump on my head and a broken wrist. And Joe's like, oh, let me see that. And Meg's just like, it doesn't hurt, leave me alone. There's nothing to see. I love that Meg is just like, yeah, whatever, like I'm hurt, like you can't do anything about it.
Yeah, she's a tough old gal. She was fine.
Yeah, she's like, I'll be fine.
She was gonna drive herself. If
the
car wasn't lodged in the tree around the corner.
That I 100% believe that is the only thing that stopped her from driving herself, is that her car was in the tree. She was like, there's someone else that needs the ambulance more than I do. And Jo is just feeling sorry for herself. She's like, I'm so sorry I wasn't there to help. And Meg's like, stop blaming yourself. You got me out of the house, and that's the most important thing. Like, you did what you came to do, right? And then she continues, and she's like, look, it's got to stop. I didn't have any warning. The sirens went off a few seconds before it hit. I couldn't even get downstairs. And just then, Dusty runs in. And he feels really bad because he's not sure if Jo wants to know, but also Dusty knows that if he doesn't tell Jo, he's going to get ripped a new one later. So he kind of just runs in and he's like, hey, Jo, so this is kind of awkward. I'm not really sure if you want to know or if you do want to know, but like the NSSL is predicting an F5. And then he dips. He's just like, okay, I've done my job. I just need to divulge information and then leave.
He did his job.
I love the awkwardness of this where he's like, I know as a human being I shouldn't tell her, but I also know that if I didn't tell her, she's going to beat the crap out of me later.
Yeah, he is definitely scared of her. Yeah, shows a lot of respect.
I'm going to tell her and then she can make decisions. So Meg also obviously hears this because we're in the back of the paramedics van, and she tells Jo, like, look, it's just going to happen to someone else. It's got to stop. And Jo says that she doesn't know how. And Meg, again, just strong girl Meg, is just like, yes, you do. You know what to do. You've been chasing these storms since you were a little kid. It's what you do. Go. Just do it. You know what you're doing. Like, come on. I love that like I said, Meg has to stay alive for that motivational speech.
Exactly. Exactly. Because Joe wouldn't have accepted it if Bill was telling her.
No.
That would have just led to an argument. She doesn't argue with Meg, and we're off and running to find that F5.
Where's the F5? But before we're off and running, Joe starts looking at the tornado wind chime thingamabob that, is outside Meg's house, which is a really cool, like, wind chime, wind catcher.
Oh, it is, yeah.
I don't know what
3
you call
different levels, and have like the scoops and going around. Yeah,
it's really cool.
That would look good in my front yard, actually.
There we go. Ideas. Home decor, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
You came for film, you get home decor. So she has some type of revelation, and she's just like, I know how to make Dorothy fly. And I was like, rotations? And Bill just goes, of course. And I was like, you want to explain this to the audience members who don't know what's going on? I'm pretty sure it means putting fans on things, but like, help. Could you make some clarity? And I appreciate that they don't tell us and they let us sit in the suspense until they just show us the answer.
Yeah, they show us the answer, but they also don't explain, did they drink all that soda or did they just pour it down the drain?
Oh, I have a thought about the soda. So, because they yell, hey, we need every aluminum can that they can find, cutters, and duct tape. And Dusty's smiling, and he's like, we're gone. Fantastic. Love it. Great. And then we have a beautiful shot of the sunrise, and it truly is just a beautiful shot of the sunrise. That's all it is. And oh, wow, they have a lot of Pepsi cans. Hey, nice product placement, Pepsi, because they are all perfect Pepsi cans, because that is 100% what you're going to find in a small town that has been ravaged by a tornado when they are scavenging for aluminum cans, is pristine, clean Pepsi cans.
And they're all Pepsi.
Every single one of them.
Where we go into a restaurant and either they have Pepsi product or Coke product. This is a whole town that is just a Pepsi town. So if you like Coke, you can't live there.
No. If you like any beverage other than Pepsi.
Right. Regular Pepsi. Yeah, that wasn't Pepsi Zero or whatever, all the different types they have. It was just regular Pepsi.
Maybe Diet Pepsi was around in 97, possibly. I don't know.
Might have been. I don't know.
But even if you wanted Diet Pepsi, not in this town. You get Pepsi. You want root beer? Not in this town. Pepsi. You want whatever the equivalent to Sprite or 7-Up is? Pepsi.
Yep, you got to have this imagination that you're drinking something other than Pepsi while you're drinking the Pepsi.
Yeah. It's truly how you become an actor.
Yes.
You have to be so good that you can be drinking a can of Pepsi and just imagine that you're having a cool lime drink.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Because that's how it works. Fantastic product placement. I just laughed at the product placement.
It was good. Good.
So, but what I was saying is they're cutting up these cans, and yeah, they are kind of creating these fan-like structures to stick on all of these spheres. And I like that they don't fully explain it to us. They're just like, great, the audience, you are smart enough to understand that they were looking at spinning, rotating things, and that we have cut things into spinning, rotating things, and have attached them to the sensor, so you should be able to pick up that we're thinking spinning, rotating thing.
Right, and at least they did show us how they attached it. They didn't just drive a screw into this thing. There was already a screw in the little orb that they took out and then used that to make that attachment.
Right.
Yeah. But did you, I never saw them use any duct tape other than to trace out the circle.
That might have legitimately been all they needed the duct tape for. Don't know why you couldn't have used a straight edge, but here we are.
Yeah, and they had at this point they still have 2 Dorothys that have not been destroyed.
And maybe one of the Dorothys had gotten beaten up and they needed the duct tape for that. So maybe the duct tape wasn't the biggest part of the plan, but they needed it for a minuscule part of the plan.
You never know what will go wrong, and no matter what that is, 99.9% you can fix with duct tape.
Look, I grew up in Boy Scouts, and you have the 10 essentials, and the 11th essential, duct tape.
Absolutely.
You always carry duct tape. Every
Okay.
single time you go anywhere on any type of hike, any camping trip, duct tape. You
Yes.
take duct tape. You need it. I mean, we made full-on duct taped shoes one summer camp because we got bored and had a lot of time on our hands.
There you go. I bet they were waterproof.
Yeah, they were really nice pink duct tape shoes that lasted us the week, and then we threw them out.
And depending on how you constructed it, they might have been a little hard to get off until that glue broke down.
Yeah, we didn't put them on right away. We kind of molded it around the foot, and then we just kind of kept the mold using some wood pieces so that it wouldn't fall down, and then we would construct it.
So see, there's a great tip. You have that duct tape with you. You're out someplace. Your shoes got soaked. You can't wear them. You can take them off. You can take socks off. You can make shoes out of duct tape. Keep your feet dry and safe.
There we go. Yeah, you don't need to be walking on the rocks.
Or use it to make something that'll fly up into the center of a tornado.
Yeah. Look, multiple uses for duct tape.
You actually can also use it to tape an air duct for air conditioning systems.
Is that what it was?
Does still work for
that?
that.
Was that the original use of duct
That
tape?
was the original use, yes, and taping up edges so that they did not leak.
Good to know, because I have never used it for that.
Been
I
used
also
for more
did
than...
for the longest time, and I may have mentioned this on this show or maybe a different show, but I did for the longest time think it was duct tape, like D-U-C-K, duck, and not duct, D-U-C-T.
So you thought it went...
Yeah, 100%. That is what I thought that the tape was.
Yeah, well, and that kind, I like the mallard variety.
Mm.
That's the best.
It's a nice kind. So they are making all of these sensors, and hey, look, it's the big bad F5 tornado, and they load up Dorothy with these new and improved sensors, and Bill tells them to get ready, and we have triumphant music, and this time we will succeed. And they say that they're a half a mile away, and I was like, okay, you say you're a half a mile away. It looks like the storm is right next to you. But yet it is causing less damage than smaller storms, but this one is the biggest.
Mm-hmm. And the base of it, I think they said, was like a mile wide.
Yeah, the base is a mile wide. But it's causing no damage.
Not at the moment.
Sure. Logic. Making logical sense. So so they get one Dorothy, and they get her down, and they drive off. And Dusty is prime and ready for contact. Joe sticks her head out the window. She starts recording, but instead of flying Dorothy, Dorothy gets hit with large tree branch and takes a tumble. And that's when I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Of course, we couldn't have succeeded. I miscounted. We had 2 Dorothys left, not 1. This was the second to last Dorothy. Mm-hmm. Of course, this couldn't be the one that worked.
It always has to come down to the last one. You wouldn't have any tension building up to the climax of the film if you had more than one.
Right. The only reason that I thought that this was going to be the Dorothy that succeeded is that I miscounted. This was completely my fault. I do apologize. I will try to be better at counting in the future.
Well, in the film, to help you out here, I think there only was a Dorothy with a 1 on it. We never saw a 2, 3, or 4.
We never saw 2, 3, or 4, but we did see them load 2. I just, for some reason, thought that there was 1. So
yeah, this time, they did show 2 as they were dumping the sensors in.
Yeah, because the first one didn't succeed when Joe lost her truck. The second one didn't succeed when it got hit with the light pole, or a telephone pole. And then this is the third one that doesn't succeed. So, we're on track. We are on track for the fourth one to succeed.
Yes.
So, Meanwhile, they're like, all right, like, let's get out of here. Let's regroup and then, like, we'll reset. We have one more shot at this. And just as they're about to go, the truck gets hit also with the tree branch. It lifts the back of the truck, and Bill can't get the car to move, and the tornado's getting closer. And yet the tornado is still not picking them up.
That's
The
right.
tornado is not tornadoing.
It is behaving.
The
So they can
tornado has
continue to build
understood
tension.
plot.
Exactly. You have to hang back. Your entrance is not for another couple pages. Hold on.
just wait. Like, don't worry.
We'll
You will
cue
have
you.
your moment to
And
shine.
now.
You will have your moment. So Joe hears something and they aren't sure what it is. They turn and, oh, look, it's a semi truck. And I'm just like, okay, this is taking a turn. And the truck hits them and it dislodges them from the branch. And so they're able to start driving. But then the truck is also flung in front of them and explodes. And they drive through the explosion. It's okay. They made it. Now, my favorite part about this whole exchange is Dusty going, guys, did you see that explosion? And then Joe just being like, yeah, we saw it.
Yeah, they were in the middle of it. And what is amazing is that the first time they shot it, they didn't get it.
Really?
They did not get it. The director did not tell the studio. They reshot it. It cost $500,000 to do a reshoot. But what we see is their second attempt.
What happened in the first one?
It didn't really say. It just said that they didn't get it on film.
Oh.
Something
Okay,
went wrong.
seriously? Of all things not to do, you don't get it on film?
Somebody messed up, and it cost another $500,000. So thank God they did that, because otherwise we would have missed the ability of that Ram truck driving through this ball of fire and absolutely not damaging the truck at all.
Oh, yeah. Great product placement for Ram.
Yes.
Yeah. Incredible.
Ram tough.
Ram tough. So the truck makes it through, and the speed is now increasing. The base is, as we said, a mile wide, if not more. And Jonas is also nearby, and they are ready to play. And so he tells them to pull back and prepare to monitor. And I was like, oh, does Jonas get sucked into the tornado? I mean, like, I wouldn't be really sad if Jonas is gone. Like, he's kind of a prick. And I feel like you can't have an F5 with 0 deaths. That's just going to be weird. So Bill says that they can make it, and Joe realized that they can't unless they anchor the pack. And so Joe, credit to her, she bites her pride and tells Jonas that the pack is too light to fly. But Jonas ain't listening.
Nope, he's not. He's like, oh, are you trying to share information with me? I don't think so.
He's trying to be cocky. Now, Bill grabs the mic and asks what their position is. And Jonas reveals. And Bill tells Jonas, hey, hang back. We have a pretty good view of it. If it shifts, it's going to come straight for you. And the driver, his name is Eddie. We learn his name is Eddie. Eddie thinks that they should take Bill's advice, and he's like, look, Bill would never knowingly put us in harm's way. Like, as much as he might not like us, he doesn't want to see us get killed. And Jonas claps back and he's like, look, when I want your opinion, I'll give you your opinion.
Yeah, that was a great line. Great line. It really showed the core of what Jonas was.
Yeah. And I was like, you know what? And after that line, I had 2 notes. I was like, 1, fantastic line. 2, at this point, wouldn't really be that mad if Jonas did get sucked into a volcano, into a tornado.
Yep. And then when it does hit, and of course it takes the truck, they've got the trailer behind it, all one unit. Eddie takes that triangular beam, whatever that was, that came flying through the windshield, and that takes him out before they go up in the air. So he is spared having to listen to what I think Jonas crying like a little baby.
Oh, probably. And pretty much how we get to that is Jonas tells Bill, get off this frequency. And then Joe's like, it's shifting. And Bill tells Jonas to move. And then Bill, smart play here, is just like, Eddie, I know you can hear me. Get out of there. And before Eddie can do anything, like you said, he's impaled by a triangular beam. And the car is lifted into the sky. Everybody sees this happening. And somehow they can point out that one tiny little car. Um, in all the debris, they can see the car.
Because that was heavy enough to be lifted
We now know.
into the tornado.
We now know a car is heavy enough to be lifted into the tornado.
Mm-hmm.
Vital information.
And cows and little bicycles.
Yeah, kids' bicycles, cows, boats, semi-trucks,
but not
cars, but not a steel structure.
No.
Logic is logicking. So, I did feel bad for Eddie, and the car gets tossed, and then it explodes. And I was like, well, I did like Eddie. Didn't really care for Jonas. So, like, okay, Jonas is gone. Now,
yeah, and I think Jonas went through a period of knowing this is now going to happen and being scared and terrified and probably crying like a little baby and calling out for mommy. And Eddie killed instantly, doesn't have to deal with it.
At least Jonas... Eddie's last moments, comparatively, were peaceful.
Right. And Jonas as a character is the type of person who, even when he's around people, he's alone.
Oh, yeah.
And in his final moments, there is no one to console him. He is alone.
Very alone. And so, Jonas gone. Bill mad. He calls him stupid. And Joe's just like, well, we tried. There's not really a lot more that we could have done. And it's like, you know what? Fair point.
Yeah, at that point, they really did do all they could. But
you did everything you could. So Bill says that there is apparently ground speed is increasing and they need to get ahead of it as fast as they can. And before they get ahead of it, we are going to take a quick break and then we will get ahead of it. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for listening to this episode of Post Finale. I hope you are all enjoying this episode, and if you want to gain access to more bonus content, like access to my notes and access to some of the tier lists that I make and help suggest films and things like that, all of that can be done over at our Patreon, and that can be found at patreon.com/coopforge. So that's patreon.com/CO_OPFORGE. Signing up for any of the tiers gets you different types of bonus content depending on the tier that you sign up for, and a shout out here on the show for every patron that signs up. It really means the world to us, and it helps us grow this show and helps us be able to put the money back into this show to make it a better experience for you, the listeners. That is our entire goal here at Co-op Forge. So thank you all so much if you are considering doing this. Now, if you want to help the show in a non-monetary way, that is fantastic as well. You can do so by just talking about us and sharing it with a friend. Just reach out to a friend and be like, hey, you love movies, or hey, you need an excuse to watch more movies. Check out this show called Post Finale. The host is silly, he's an actor, he's confused most of the time, gets a lot of guesses wrong, but overall it's a lovely time and some interesting discussions about some iconic films. I think you'll really enjoy it. It really does help. And be sure to talk about us on social media and follow us on social media. That really helps out a lot as well. If you're looking for the show, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Post Finale Pod. And then you can also find us at Co-op Forge on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And that's at Co-op Forge at CO_OPFORGE. And we post content not just from Post Finale, but from the other shows here on Co-op Forge as well. So that includes Flip the Scripts and that includes Seattle Across the Pond. So be sure follow both of those channels. Again, it's at Post Finale Pod and at Co-op Forge, CO_OPFORGE. But just thank you so much for listening to this episode. Wherever you are, if you're enjoying the episode, if you're listening on YouTube, please please hit subscribe. It really does help us out. If you're listening on a podcast app, that's great as well. It doesn't matter to us where you're listening. We're just so thankful that you're listening. But if you're listening on a podcast app, please leave a rating. It really does help us out. Please leave a review and hit that follow button. You can also turn on notifications both on YouTube and on the podcast apps just to be notified when new episodes come out. It really does mean a lot that you are all listening to these episodes, and thank you all so much. So let's get back to the episode without further ado. So we are now in front of this tornado, and we're now being pelted with tractors. Add that to the list of things that are heavy enough to be
other farm implements.
Yes. These farm implements heavy enough to be lifted. So, there are tractors. They are weaving in and out of these tractors, and oh look, now there's a house right in front of them, and they drive straight through it.
And of course, what's the great line that they wrote for Joe to say? We have debris.
Hey, it's a consistent line.
It is.
It's not we got tractors, it's just we have debris. Is the debris bigger than whatever we have faced before? Yes. Is it still debris? Yes.
Yep.
So
is huge. And of course, another little mess up. The combine piece of equipment hits the windshield, breaks the windshield. And as we continue beyond this, the windshield is no longer smashed. So in Twister, these truck windshields on the Dodge Ram can reconstitute itself after it's been smashed and become a solid windshield again. I want one of those.
I want that technology.
Yeah, that is an amazing technology.
Yeah,
I think that might have been the forerunner to what was it, RoboCop?
I haven't seen it.
Or was that Terminator, where they had the character who was made out of this molten material and would just reshape?
Terminator just had the flesh on top of him.
Yeah, it might have been Terminator 2.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
Oh, okay. Well, let's get back to Twister.
This is why the show exists.
Yes.
I did enjoy the little squeak that you get when the teddy bear hits Joe in the face. It's just like,
yes.
Adorable. And then they're just like, all right, we're going in. And Joe climbs to the back to get Dorothy number 4 ready. And, hey, look, it's ready. And I was like, okay, if it took Joe half a second to get Dorothy number 4 ready, what was Bill doing the entire time he was trying to get Dorothy number 2 ready?
Well, that's a good question. He was fighting with one of those straps. Apparently, she didn't need to. Let's say he cut his hand. She braked, and he smacked his forehead into the so he was getting himself beat up. He's a bit clumsier than she is.
Oh yeah. And she probably had a little bit of an easier time climbing out that back window.
Yes. Yep. Definitely it was sized for her. It didn't look any bigger than when Bill Paxton went through it, but apparently his had to have been.
Yeah. So they're driving through some cornfields now, and I was like, okay, what's the plan here? And then they both get kind of hanging on the side of the cars, and Bill has set the cruise control, and I was like, okay, still confused on what's going on here. And they're driving towards the tornado, and I was like, this seems like a dumb plan. And I was like, oh, wait, I finally understood the plan when they go, okay, on the count of 3. And I was like, oh, they're going to bail out of the car and send the car into the tornado, because we just learned from Jonas that, cars can be lifted. They are heavy enough. So Eddie's death, not in vain.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely not in vain.
Eddie's death, not in vain. So I was like, all right, this is what's going to happen. They both do jump out of the car. The car keeps going forward. The sensors are able to deploy. They fly up into the tornado. The gang is ecstatic. The data is recording. It's amazing. It's like Christmas. And storm shifts.
Yes. And this is when the most amazing human feat I've ever seen happen. Two humans can outrun an F5.
Yeah, I was impressed. The gang's trying to warn them, like, hey, get out of there. Obviously, they can't hear because, of the small fact that the car is gone. But the gang don't know this. And I was like, lovely. They run through the cornfields. Like you said, the most amazing feat ever recorded in cinematic history. They're able to outrun an F5 tornado.
Yeah, they do. They outrun it and they go into this barn.
Yeah.
And the barn takes us back, maybe subconsciously, but it takes us back to The Shining because there were all of these super sharp implements.
That's what they were trying to get us to think of.
Yeah, I think so. And Helen Hunt's character says, who are these people? I'm going, why are you worried about who owns the barn when an F5 is bearing down on you and going to take this barn? I mean,
No. She's got different priorities.
Yeah, there were a lot of knives.
A lot of knives. And Bill and Joe decide leaving the barn and attempting this feat of running from an F5 on foot is safer than staying in a barn that's full of knives.
Mm-hmm.
So they continue. They try their feet once again.
Yep. They haul tail down away, and they wind up in this watershed.
Oh yeah. Also, not only are they outrunning this F5, they are also having impressively close calls with a whole lot of debris, and it's all missing them.
Absolutely. Not a scratch on them.
None.
They are dodging it so well. It's as if they have a force field around them, and they're good.
They are running strong. They have that plot armor, and oh boy, are they banking on plot armor.
Yes. Yeah. Then they get in there, and they find some leather straps to try to tie themselves to the water pipe, and somehow Bill knows these water pipes go 30 feet into the ground.
How do you know this, Bill?
That's what I wanted to know. And how do you know, what is it attached to? Is it in a thrust block? So 30 feet under the ground, you've got this huge block of cement.
He installed them. That's my only answer. He installed them.
What you have here now is a great thing, and was the show still on the air, this is a scene that Mythbusters should have done and created a false F5, in their little place, and figured out what the scale model for 30 feet down for water pipe would be, and would that F5 had just ripped them out. Because magically they also had some really good leather. I don't know what the leather was doing there, if it was in a watershed, but they tied themselves on. And
I don't know what the leather was doing there. I was confused on why it was there, but I think it was something that people use for horses, because there were some horses running around as well.
Yeah, the horse, and you notice the horses, they were too light.
Too light.
They did not get, cow, yes, horse, no.
Yeah. Hey, we need our standards.
Right. So, but yeah, it was interesting. You really had to just be invested in the building to the climax, and our heroes cannot get swept up into the tornado. They've got to survive this. And what's going to happen?
What's going to happen? So, they strap themselves down, and their feet are flying up in the air. The tornado comes right over them, runs right through them. They are holding on with all their might. Those straps are working extra. They did not sign up for this shift. This is overtime for those straps. And it's almost like Joe is having some type of revelation about something. The way that they keep shooting it, like you're looking up into the tornado, and then you're also looking at Joe, who's just like, oh my God, this is what my dad went through. Kind of revelation is at least what I'm thinking is running through her head. I don't know. I wasn't Helen Hunt
Maybe
or
what was running
the
through her
stunt
head
double.
was, if Dad only had a leather strap and a water pipe, he would still be here.
Yeah, it's very possible. It's very possible. We are not completely sure what is running on through her head, but they are hanging on for dear life. Again, this is probably the second most impressive feat that I have seen in movie history recently, at least. So it's. I'm impressed that this worked because they are a-okay after the tornado has passed.
Yes, it is the way they constructed the film. They really do take the audience. They get them invested in these folks. They are invested in them surviving. They put reality outside of their bodies, and they did a wonderful job in building to the climax and to this point in the film, to where you're not thinking what we're talking about now. You're just going, my God, oh, they're so lucky. Look how that missed them. Oh, wonderful. They have these straps. Oh, and those pipes. Great. They go 30 feet in the ground. That's a good thing. I don't know why, but it's a good thing. And they'll survive this.
They will.
They have to, because I want to see a sequel.
30 years later without the original actors.
Yeah. Who would have thunk?
I don't know. So a family pops out. Hey, I found those people that hold the knives. You can
Yeah,
go ask
were
questions.
they? Were they? Because and that was the moment when they finally came out and it was nice and calm. And, so you got the dad who looks like Joe's dad, but it's not. And he's holding the little girl. And then the mom, who kind of looked like they were, Joe's mom from back in 1969. And there's another kid. I don't remember if there was a dog. But looking around, it didn't look like the same farm. So I was really hoping it was. And
I thought
then
it was.
for the farmer to say, "What are you doing strapped to my water pipe?"
I would have
And
loved if
who
he
are
said that.
you?
Who are you? Like, what's going on? And so we see the family. The horses, it's okay. They're fine. They were not
They
strong
were
enough to
perfect.
be picked up.
Nothing
Still,
hit them.
not heavy enough. No. They're horses. They are agile.
They're wonderful.
They are beautiful, agile creatures. Meanwhile, Bill and Joe are, fine. They're strapping. They've strapped themselves down. They're good. And they're like, we did it. They are getting sprayed with water. So water is existent.
Finally, it showed up there. Yes.
Yeah. Joe says that she will run the lab and Bill has to go through all the data. And Bill's like, well, why can't I run the lab and you go through all the data? And Joe's like, is everything just going to be a fight with you? And just as they're about to kiss, the gang shows up, interrupting everything. They are thrilled. I guess none of them have processed that, like, Joe and Bill were just in an F5 tornado. Nobody cares about that. They're just like, we have all the data. The sensors went crazy. It's the biggest twister on record. And then Dusty's like, hey, look at the sky. And Joe's just like, I think we've seen enough. And then she kisses Bill. Dusty's happy. Everyone's playing with the dog. By the way, the dog has come on this trip. They just brought the dog. The dog is part of the gang now.
Yes.
Let's go.
The dog is now an official storm chaser.
The dog is a storm chaser. And they end the movie on a happy note, just the way I predicted it. So I'm feeling pretty good about
It
this.
was a wonderful prediction.
Thank you.
And the amazing thing was, there were no opening credits to this film. It opens up and it says Twister, and somewhere within the clouds, and I want to go back and watch and see if I can find this. You see where it kind of says Universal Studios and Amblin Entertainment, but basically the end credits were the only credits. That's where it started rolling, but there was no starring and co-starring and all that before the film even started. Yeah.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep. So I'm wondering if they're going to do the same thing with the new one. there's only one way to find out.
There's one way to find out, ladies and gentlemen.
Whether you go to the theater and see it, wait till it streams. Hopefully, it doesn't go to streaming quickly because that means it's not so good.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't go to streaming quick. We are unsure, but if
It is. Sorry.
yeah.
It, Spielberg's company is producing it, so hopefully they have.
Fingers crossed.
It is good that it is a continuation of the story and it's not just redoing it, and hopefully that plays well and that they've put together a good script and cast that has the chemistry that this cast did, who have, if you look at the people that were in this, they were in so many different projects before and after. Rabbit, of course, one of his most famous roles he ever played was in Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
It is the same guy. Okay.
It is, and then the gentleman with the curly hair, I'm sure he was on Saint Elsewhere. He's done tons of things. The fiance, she was on a sitcom. So there's so much work, and of course Bill Paxton had done so much up to that point, and it's a shame that he passed away when he did. And they actually named these the group that actually sends these sensors up, they named them after him. For in 2017 they sent up another one of these sensor things, and the sensors were called the BP for Bill Paxton.
Oh, that's a lovely tribute,
which is kind of cool. But they had problems with the weather when they were shooting, because obviously it wasn't tornado-y and the skies were not as dark as they needed them. So in this particular film, you have your two main stars who actually suffered some injury while they were doing it. In trying to get the contrast that they needed, they used such high-powered lighting instruments that they were getting some retina burns from those lights. And going through the cornfield, that door slammed in on Helen Hunt when the car was moving.
okay.
There was they did some interesting things that didn't make sense through the whole film. There was a point when in the scene, if you remember, when Bill's driving his red truck and Jonas is pulling up and they're going to go a different direction, and he slams on his brakes and stops, and all of Jonas's people go past him, and then he throws it in reverse and turns around and goes the other way. Somehow all the Jonas's people pass him again. So they went here and jumped back and came back, and someone just decided this looks good, people's going to buy it. And they did such a good job of getting people invested in this film.
Nobody
and
cared
in the
about those
story
tiny
that
things.
nobody really cared.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you rate the films.
I do. At the end, I look at, I give my rating and I look at the other ratings. But I would love to hear, what would you rate this film on a score of 1 to 10?
1 to 10, I would give this like a 9.5, because it was well written. The acting was very good. I love the special effects. I just watched it the other day, and remember, this was done in 1996, and the special effects are still holding up today. They still look really good. The cow is CGI. It doesn't really look it. So they really didn't throw a cow around.
Wait,
Imagine how
you're
much trouble
telling me
they would
they
have been.
didn't just throw a cow around?
No.
Why am I
no.
watching this film?
But I love that part where they go, we got a cow. We got another cow. Well, that was the same cow. How does he know that? It just came back around. That's the special effects hold up, and the chemistry with that cast was really good, and it was just wonderful escapism to just whatever's going on in your life. You go into the theater or sit down in front of your television and enjoy watching this film and watch what they're going through, and you just buy into it. And that's, to me, what entertainment is supposed to be. It doesn't have to be pushing any kind of a hard message into anybody, but it just gives you something that you can root for and you enjoy it and you go, that was fun. To me, movies should be fun. And this one, this was fun.
It was a fun one. I would also probably rate it about a 9.5 out of 10. It doesn't get that 10 spot just because some of the continuity errors that we have been pointing out. It's like, all right, if those continuity errors weren't there, I would have rated this a 10 out of 10 because, like you said, like it understood its job. Its job was not a hard-hitting expose on twisters. Like its
I
job was
actually, yeah,
fun summer blockbuster,
yes. I
interesting
think if
story. Let's go.
they set out to do something that was more like a documentary that was going to go into absolute specific details of what the F scale is, what is it, Fujita scale,
Yeah,
whatever I think it is,
Fujima, if I remember correctly.
and what this is and that is, and get real technical. I think this film would have been a snoozer that nobody would be talking about today. There never would be a sequel.
Exactly. I think they found the nice medium of still using the language that storm chasers and meteorologists would use. So they found the nice medium, and they didn't force it down your throat. It was just like, hi, these people speak like this. Like, get with the program. Like, this is the lingo that they use. You might not understand it, but like, we're not going to change it because this is who these people are. This is how they're going to speak. But at the same time, you have that Melissa character, and they found that nice medium where like you have that character. So until you fully understand what's going on, you have a character that can ask some of these questions of like, hey, like I don't really get it. And they found a nice medium of explaining enough. So as a viewer who knows nothing about this, you're still like, okay, cool. Like I know what's going on. I can keep up.
And that she didn't have a background in it. The explanation had to be in a way that she would understand. She's intelligent. She is a doctor. So not really dumbed down. So it was a way to explain things, and that worked well.
And I liked that she was intelligent because audiences are intelligent. And I think that's something that like modern cinema, a lot of scripts that I've seen recently, just like they just assume the audience is not intelligent. And it's like, no. Audience is intelligent.
She had a lot of great lines too. It was a very, very funny character. The phone's ringing and she's driving through this hurricane, and she's got her clients calling, and they, to get sessions. And at one point she says, "I gotta go. We got cows."
It's like, what?
And to the person who's on the other end of the phone, that makes no sense whatsoever. Very funny when you're watching it, but,
right?
They took, they say there are no new stories. So they took the boy has a lost girl, boy finds new girl, boy loses that girl, boy gets other girl back. They put people in a position where they should never be. That's always, a good point to tell a story, and fighting against these elements. And, you do become invested in, will they get this? Why she's doing it. This seems pretty cool. Get this information, get these things to fly. So they really crafted a wonderful piece of entertainment from my perspective.
I agree.
And if they're planning to do a third one, I'd love to be in it.
Hey, I'd love to be in a third one as well. Hit us up.
Oh, let's do that. I know who could direct it, and we just got to get someone who knows Spielberg to want to put up the money.
Yeah. We just gotta find a contact to Spielberg. Anyone listen, hit us up. So
yeah,
they made it on a budget of $88 to $92 million. It's the rough budget, and the box office. Hey, it did its job as a summer blockbuster, which was meant to just be a fun movie. $495.7 million. Fantastic. IMDb rated it a 6.5 out of 10. I feel like that's kind of low. Rotten Tomatoes critics scored it a 65%, and Rotten Tomatoes audience scored it a 58%, which was quite surprising to me. Didn't expect the ratings to be that low. Critics make sense at 6.5. If I was like criticizing it and like going in with the critic's mind, yeah, 6.5 can make sense. But like I would have probably given it more like a 7.5 if I was kind of coming at it from a critic standpoint. Just the
coming at it from an audience standpoint.
From an audience standpoint, like an enjoyability standpoint, first time watching, fantastic. Like, it is a film that I would 100% sit down and watch again. And then just the last couple things, because it did get nominated for some awards. They got nominated for Best Sound at the 1997 Oscars, and they got nominated for Best Effects/Visual Effects at the 1997 Oscars. And at the 1997 BAFTA Awards, they won Best Special Visual Effects.
Yeah, I can believe that because they still hold up today.
Yeah, they really do. It didn't feel like I was watching a film from 1996.
No.
Did not feel like I was watching a film that was 28 years old. 27?
Yes.
28? 28.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, that's Twister. It was an absolutely lovely time. Paul, thank you so much for joining once again.
Well, again, thank you for having me.
Of
It
course.
was fun to watch this again. You know, I hadn't thought about the film in a while, and I went, "Oh, yeah, I want to sit down and watch that again."
Yeah,
I know what's going to happen, but it's fun. That's one of the things I like to do with films. When I know what's going to happen, then I like to look for any kind of foreshadowing things that happen that make things more believable as the story progresses.
Oh, definitely. So, yeah, if people want to find some of the projects that you worked on and, projects you might be working on in the future, how can they keep up to date with things that
I got
you're
my
doing?
website, which is paulmichaelnieman.com. Resumes there. It's fairly well up to date. The IMDb, if they go there, they can search me there, and that's pretty well up to date. Of course, the newest was the addition of an episode on Days of Our Lives. Soap has been on the air for 60 years now, I believe, and they're still going strong. You can only watch it on Peacock now because NBC doesn't have it on regular television, but it's still there. So it's streaming, and hopefully they'll see a lot more of me coming up.
Yeah, hopefully. Wonderful. All the links to those websites are down in the description, ladies and gentlemen. Paul, thank you so much for joining. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening. Be sure to join us next week when we jump into our next film, which is going to be Boogie Nights. And I don't know much about it, so that's going to be an adventure. All I've known is very basic plot. So be sure to tune in. New episodes post-finale every Wednesday. Flip the Scripts, all about adaptations, is every Friday. And Seattle Across the Pond, which is important things in the world of sports, is every other Thursday. Thank you so much for listening. And until next week, I'll catch you later. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for listening to this episode of Post Finale. Post Finale is created, hosted, and produced by me, Ankit Madhira. Our editor is Pranav Nair. The music is by Ankit Madhira and Megan Hutchison, and the art is by Jarid Rother. If you are all enjoying this episode and want to gain access to more bonus content, you can do so by heading over to patreon.com/coopforge and signing up for any of the tiers. You get loads of different bonus content, such as notes and commentary that we have as we're watching the films, as well as some bonus audio, some bonus videos, and ad-free episodes, early access if we get them done early, and different things like that. All of that can be found at patreon.com/coopforge, and that's patreon.com/co_opforge. If you want to help out the show in a non-monetary way, that's great as well. Tell a friend about the show. Just reach out and be like, hey, you love films, or hey, you need an excuse to watch some more films. Check out the show called Post Finale. The host is an actor, and he's funny and silly, confused most of the time, but they have interesting discussions about some popular films that I think you would really enjoy. It really does help us out a lot. Be sure to talk about us on social media at Post Finale Pod on Instagram and Facebook. And you can also follow us at CoOpForge, that's CO_OPFORGE, on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And there we post content not just from Post Finale, but also from the other shows hosted here on Co-op Forge, which are Flip the Scripts and Seattle Across the Pond. So a lot of fun things can be found over there on our social media. It really, really does help us out a lot. Thank you to everyone who has already done this. Thank you to everyone who will do this in the future. It really does mean a lot to us, and it helps us
create better content for you, the listeners, as we grow. It really does help. And thank you so much for listening to this episode of Post Finale. And I can't wait until next week. And until then, I'll catch y'all later.